I'm glad I had that GoPro running.
Welcome to the shop. I'm Jared, and this is the Questionable Garage, and it is 2024. Happy New Year, everyone. I hope you guys had a good time with friends and family, or with your loved furry ones at home. However you celebrated the new year, welcome to 2024. I hope you have some exciting resolutions. And speaking of resolutions, this, if you're not familiar, is Earl Leeker. It is our Nissan 300ZX that has been around the channel longer than I have. A quick history lesson on this car: Andrew Howell, way back in the day working with Tavares, they picked this thing up. It had a Nissan V8 in it. We pulled that out. We put a Toyota 2JZ. We pulled that out, and then I decided to make it a burnout car and started building a Chevrolet big block 454 cubic inch engine for it to take to Cletus and cars and other burnout events. And it has just been the perpetual project. It has been around forever, and it is time. We are gonna get this thing running, and we're gonna start the new year with a bang. We are gonna hopefully put some tires on this thing and run them until they pop, because nothing else is coming inside until this car starts. I've got a lot of cars I need to work on, and this doesn't go off the lift until it starts. So we're gonna buckle in. We've got to do a lot of wiring. We've got to finish up a few things on the cooling system. We've got to get the shifter connected, build some brake lines. There's just a whole lot to do, and we got to get started on it. Also, along the way, we're gonna take a break and kind of update you on the entire fleet. We're gonna talk about all the cars out there, inside, wherever we've got them hidden, what we've got coming up with them, and maybe the rough timeline of when we might work on it. So hang in. We've got a whole big adventure of firing up our $15,000 big block that I never intended to be that expensive, and hope it goes smoothly. Spoiler alert, I'm actually shooting this part of the video at the end, so I know how everything went. How good is this poker face? I think it's pretty good. You're not gonna believe what happened. Really, the number one failure of burnout cars is losing their drive belts and either overheating or losing the electrical system. So we have a solution for it. One, we've got the electrical water pump, but if we lost an alternator, we still potentially would have a problem. But that's where I said, we're getting a really special battery. So for a really special battery, I have my special friend Casey here.
How you doing?
You know a lot about batteries. It was kind of fun that I should have just been filming all along, so we got to recreate some of that magic of us talking about the different series of batteries that Braille offers, traditional lead acid, one's the right choice to pick things and whatnot. But of all of these batteries, you started to kind of give away, what do we have for the burnout car and pretty much every other car in my fleet?
Yeah, well, so you have a really consistent theme with your cars, and one thing I really enjoyed about your channel is that it's either high horsepower or a total loss. One of the two, and sometimes it's combined together. And so this battery in particular was made for total loss systems. So if you didn't have an alternator, or maybe you threw the belt for the alternator and you just needed to keep going, this is kind of the battery that you want. It was made specifically for total loss systems.
And again, total loss meaning there's not you don't have an intentional way to charge the battery. You're expecting to start with it full, and by the time you're finished, it's roughly depleted.
Absolutely, yeah. So you kind of want to use this. You can do the math and figure out how long you can run it for. It depends entirely upon your car, but if you do need help with that, we can try and help you. But yeah, if you have a burnout car and you got to do 3 minutes of continuous tire roasting burnouts, this is going to be the battery for you. This is even overkill for your car.
Yeah, we were doing the calculations, and it's more than what's really in demand. Well, just for scale, this is technically one or two group sizes larger. This is a group 31.
34.
Oh, 34.
Yeah, classic American style.
Yeah, for the common that. 34 is very similar to, I think, group 24.
It is?
It's an inch shorter. So even though this is your traditional lead acid cell, slightly larger group, so in theory you'd think it'd have more capacity, but we did. So one, what is capacity referenced as? The amp hours, correct? Mm-hmm. So amp hour of this, I think we looked it up, was 56.
It was 56 or 65, one of the two. But you would expect it to be about 60 thereabout, given its size. That's fairly normal. This one, now bear in mind, this probably weighs about 55 pounds, I'd say, given by the old arm test. This is 18.9 pounds. It weighs absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I pick it up and almost throw it.
Yeah.
So,
I thought you were like...
so like a third the weight, or yeah, about a third the weight. And what is the equivalent capacity of that battery?
So the lead acid equivalent for this one, or the lead acid amp hour equivalent, is 150, which is insane. Absolutely insane for a battery that, never mind that is the size that it is, but it weighs what it does. And you know, the nice thing too about these batteries is if you have a classic hot rod, particularly this one being a Group 34, if you open up the hood of your 70 Chevelle, your Camaro, it was using a battery this size to begin with. So if you're doing drag racing and you're trying to save weight, and you have, what, small electric fans and tons of fuel pumps, you can still make it look like it belongs there, but it will long since outperform that.
Now, we're going to get a little nerdy here in a second, too, and talk about temperatures and things like that, but there's more batteries on the table. If you have a more traditional race car with a more traditional charging system, say a Miata, a Spitfire, you know, we'll just name off some of your other small Lotuses, or even Honda Civics, or just smaller capacities. That's technically a motorcycle battery, but what is the weight on that one?
This one, oh gosh, it can't weigh anything. It's 5.4 pounds.
5 pounds.
So here,
Yeah. It just...
I use this one to start up my 327. I've got a Spitfire with a transplanted small block Chevy in it, and this starts my small block Chevy with no problem. If you've got a Miata, a 240Z, 240SX, something that's a healthy four-cylinder, this will do the job really nicely.
And you can save an absolute astronomical amount of weight. But lithium is not the answer for everyone. Cold weather, 32 degrees, lithium cells, they get really unhappy. That's why, well, really lithium likes to be, realistically, what is it, about 110 to 120 degrees. So if you had this in a regular daily driver car, where lithium really isn't a good fit. There's companies that sell them and market them that way. You're spending a lot of money for battery you don't necessarily need in that application. But if you're ever stuck in the cold weather, you said you have some people you were trying to also destroy the batteries, and they found a trick to make it work. Doing what now?
Yeah, so if, let's say hypothetically speaking, Jared, that you decided you wanted to go ice racing, which I think you should do at some point, you can still use this battery. But a trick to make the most of this battery so that it doesn't get hurt in the cold weather, turn on your headlights. Just have your accessories running for about a minute, maybe even 2 minutes. Turn up your music, look at your radio, just your phone, cycle through all the different accessories. It gives this battery a chance to warm up, and that's the way to do it.
Before we go on to the more practical, you also have now the charging, the maintenance charger and things like that. So when I ran the speed shop and lithium first started coming out, there was this rumor or suggestion going around that to even install a lithium battery in the car, you needed a special alternator.
No, that's complete farce. Lithium batteries have what's called a plateaued voltage curve, meaning from, let's say, 100% down to 20, 25%, you're going to see an absolute constant 13.3 volts. But once you hit that 20, 25%, it goes, and it just will immediately nosedive. And that is twofold a problem. One, you can't jumpstart a lithium battery. So that's why I tend to not put these in Toyota Camrys or Corollas. I put them in Ferraris or Dusters with massive engines in them. And the other problem with that is your normal charger can't bring it back up. So that's why we have this guy. And this one here was made specifically to revive an overly discharged battery. And that's what we call it when it is leapt off the voltage curve and just nosedived. So you have to have something like that. I really recommend the Optimate. This is probably my favorite, well, I say probably, it is my favorite lithium charger on the market. We also have it, but it saved a lot of people's bacons because at the end of the day, if you're not paying attention, you leave your lights on, you go off to go party with some friends and you just are negligent, unfortunately, and I've been there a couple times myself. You have to use a charger like that. Specifically, I recommend that one to bring it back.
Because we don't want to rely, you don't want to jump start and rely on a car's alternator. because it kind of pulses the voltage as it's spinning around and charging. It's not providing a stable voltage, and lithium really wants to give good voltage out and get as much good voltage back in.
Jump starting is very aggressive, and these do not like very aggressive just recharging systems. So like what you're saying, Jared, alternators aren't going to do it if it's overly discharged.
We're saying all of this to say, okay, this is our old technology, lead acid. It works, they're semi-reliable, they leak, create problems, but Braille is also known for what's called an AGM battery, an absorbed glass mat. And that's where this comes in. And it's really easy, it tells you right on it, 21 pounds.
This is one of my favorite batteries of all time. This is actually a motorcycle group size battery. It's an itty bitty thing. Now, 21 pounds kind of sounds like a lot when we were just talking about 5.4. But if we go back to the realm of reality where this battery is putting out more cranking amps than our 54 pound, 55 pound lead acid battery, 21 pounds doesn't sound too bad anymore. And the nice thing about these itty bitty motorcycle sized batteries is you can mount them in any orientation because they're AGM, which is super handy. You can put them anywhere in the car. So a lot of the people that are buying these batteries, you know, they've got the old like 32 Ford and they're hiding this in, you know, underneath the floorboards, but it has to sit like this. And, you know, you can do this, but the old lead acid batteries, you can't do that. You know, if you wanted this to hang upside down, like, you know, a bat sleeping, you can leave it like that for the rest of its life and it wouldn't care. Now, that's not specifically a Braille feature. All AGM batteries do that. But where our batteries differ is these have more pulse cranking amps than any other AGM battery you're going to find of this size. This is mind-blowing how much this puts out. So if you're building an old hot rod, if you're like me and you refuse to buy any modern day car, but you have something with high compression in it and it has to be able to start on hot starts, which I don't know if you've ever experienced that before, a normal lead acid battery isn't going to like that because it's not going to put out what this is to try and start your hot started car.
But you also have, I was going to say, you also have larger AGM as well. Like,
oh, yeah.
That's, so if you have the modern Mustang and you're wanting a really good battery, there's options.
Yeah, absolutely. There is definitely the right battery for every situation. And the most expensive battery isn't always the right battery. And it's really important to figure that one out. And so you can always give me a call and we'll try and figure that out together. But if you're doing off-road Moab like rock climbing, I suggest an AGM battery. Yeah. If you're doing smooth as silk, you know, long endurance races where you need the most amount of steady voltage, that's the way to go.
If you're doing total loss, circle track, burnout car, things of that nature, you got that big boy. And there may be a time someone calls up and you're like, listen, your K1500's a really cool truck, but
this is where it belongs. And that's okay. This is still a battery at the end of the day, and it's still going to do the job. So if you have a Toyota Camry and you know you're looking to save some weight, well, sure, maybe an AGM. But for your day in and day out, stick with the mom and pop. But if you're going to go racing and you're trying to save some weight, this is the way to go.
Do your research, have a lot of fun. Hopefully this was, you know, a fun little bit of a whole lot of battery tech. And thank you to Braille and Casey.
Thanks for coming out here.
That's kind of extreme, and I'm pretty excited about it.
Since we're running fuel injection on our big block engine, we have a lot of computers and wiring to mount. Also, because we have the ridiculous exhaust going out the front of the car, we're able to use the transmission tunnel as it'll be a relatively cool and safe area to mount our ignition box, our relay board, and Holley Terminator ECU. I started laying out all of the wires and where they needed to run in the car so I could get a better idea where to mount the battery box and the Braille battery inside the cabin. Here I am crimping the ends on and putting it in the TechFlex sleeving, which is going to help keep it looking good and protect the wire from any sharp edges. And because wiring can take a really long time and you don't really get to see much, as you can tell as I'm trying to run my power cables in a nice clean way, I posted and asked you guys what some of you wanted to see, and one of the biggest requests was asking about some of the tools that I use while I'm wiring, so here you go. Here's some of the tools I use.
This is just a simple hydraulic crimper that I use for all of my battery cables. There's two different types of schools of thought. Some people like a center crimp where it's only spearing in the center and you have two round sections. I have found the best luck with this style crimp where it crimps the entire fitting in. Does a really good job. It's hydraulic, nice to use. You can also have them where you strike them with a hammer. Now, different types of crimpers. Anytime we're using those non-insulated terminals, this is the style of crimper I use for them. Just keeps it round and pinches in the center. Kind of like I was describing for the battery crimps that will only pinch in one spot. There we go. The other style depends on your terminal. With a non-insulated solder seal, you do not want to spear it. So this is the style of crimper you would use for that. Nice and color-coded and ratcheting. And that gives you two nice crimps. And these work great with the combo solder seal and crimping connectors. Also, don't drop them in the puddle and forget to wipe the water off. The other style is when you're doing terminals and connectors, this will roll the terminal ends over. Now, there are also barrel style crimps, but I do not use many of them. So this works perfect for most of them. Again, it loops and pinches in, and that's when you're using standard Deutsch and weather packs. This is the type of crimper I like to use for that. Also, everyone's favorite, strippers. I like the automatic strippers. They work really well, but I know in some industries you cannot use that. So you will have a pre-sized blade. The reason they don't let you use these is they may go ahead and crimp and nick some of the wire. So depending on application, this is not the right tool for you, but it works really good in most all automotive, and you adjust your tension, and that goes there. Three other things. For cutting, nothing is better than a pair of flush cutters for wire and when you're doing zip ties. Get them cut flush so you don't cut yourself or no one else coming behind cuts themselves on it. Also, on the note of zip ties, one of my favorite tools. This ratcheting zip tie gun, you can see you get it looped, put the tang in there, it will tension it, and as soon as it basically reaches a preset tension, it has teeth that will come down and cut it perfectly flush. These things are amazing whenever you have room to use them, and you'll never go wrong with a really good pair of scissors. You know, I'm a fan of scissors. I have abused these things, and they still cut really well, so Harbor Freight has done a really good job on their scissors. Again, Rob Dahm has a really fantastic series if you want to braid wire, make these insane, nice, beautiful harnesses, but on Earl especially, we're going for serviceability and kind of like isolated circuits because fire is always a possibility in a burnout car and ease to fix is king. And if you have everything in one bundle, it's hard to isolate just the one thing that's damaged.
All right, I'm hooking up one more fan, so I figured let's kind of talk through directly and kind of live some of the wiring that I've been doing. You know, we've been time-lapsing and I explained steps, but some of the different things I like to use when I'm wiring. Most all of it comes from our friends at Wire Care. First, the outer sleeving I use as much as possible just because I really like it. Discovered it when I was working with Derek on the Cat Farm crew cab, is the TechFlex noise suppression. And when I first heard that name, I was like, how is this like reducing electrical noise? Electrical noise is just sometimes, depending on how wires are run, power wires, they can generate an electric field around them, which causes interference to sensors, to radios, things like that. No, it's noise reduction because it's meant to stay quiet in the car. Sometimes if you have a hard sleeving, the wiring will actually kind of chatter and chafe and make some noise, whereas this has a cloth built into it. The other reason I really like this stuff, especially on old cars, it looks vintage and just doesn't really stand out like when you compare it to a full nylon sleeve. Also, one benefit of the TechFlex stuff from the WireCare family is you can get it in just about every color you want. They even had like a Christmas peppermint kind of colored version. Ultimately, like on the drag Lexus, my plan is to color code injectors, and I'm able to do that. You know, each cylinder, coil, and injector will be a specific little length of TechFlex, so it's easy to identify and plug in. Now, you can do heat shrink labeling and things like that, but I like making it as dummy proof as possible on a race car thing. Now, on a show car, you want, you know, things as hidden as much as possible. All of the heat shrink that I use it both on the end of the wire loom and over connections. I love the glue line stuff. Shrinkflex, if you're buying it from a local store, look for Marine. The Marine is gonna have the glue on the inside. What I like about Shrinkflex is the 3-to-1 shrink ratio. This will get 3 times smaller than its current size, so it does a really good job. Depending on, like, if you're running 2 wires on one side and a single wire on the other, this will seal that up and look really good. It adds a little bit of weight, adds, I wouldn't even say complexity, but the thought process in a burnout car. There's a good chance this is going to catch fire. There's a good chance one fan motor might fail and burn up a section of wiring. And if you have all of your wires bundled together in one unit, when they melt, it melts everything. Whereas this is going to let me be able to isolate, run just 2 wires very quickly versus having to redo everything. And then for terminals, I get the Amazon aluminum non-insulated stuff a lot of times, depending on what we're doing. Again, on the race car, I get the really expensive connectors and terminals. On this car, these work good enough. I prefer the non-insulated. Main reason, you know, you're used to seeing them with the blue, the yellow, the red to tell you the gauging and sizes that you need there. The problem is the insulated, odds are when you crimp it, you're puncturing the insulation anyway. And 2, you can't really see that you've made a good crimp. I like a visual confirmation as much as possible whenever possible. So when they're non-insulated, you're able to know that you made a good crimp, you're not puncturing anything, and then you can put your heat shrink over the end of it. Let's go ahead and build out this wire, and then one more wire to do after that. So this is, I like, split loom is fantastic when you're working with a current harness. This is sleeving, not split loom, so you can't really put it over connectors. You got to go ahead and run it brand new. Give a little bit of a working edge. We'll have those. So close to this dang thing finally. Gotta wire 1 button for the trans brake, because that's actually how it goes into reverse. You know, it's funny, I used to make fun of these stupid little heat deflectors and just straight up blast hot air out of my heat gun. Then I used it and realized how big an idiot I've been. It helps, you know, the whole thing just shrink a lot quicker. There's just a lot of time-consuming steps to wiring, and it's not always the most interesting. You can only watch me stare and watch heat shrink so many times. You guys had some really good suggestions, and honestly, when wiring's exciting, probably because something's gone wrong. In my head, Electric Boom comes to mind, and some of you also commented about him. If you've not seen him, it's hilarious. He is a very brilliant electrical engineer that knows how to show the exact wrong way to do so many things. And he does it safely, like intentionally shorting things, blowing up capacitors, accidentally creating short circuits. May seem weird to say, but you have to be really smart to be able to reliably screw up so badly and still be alive. Also, don't ever forget, you know, to go ahead and slide your heat shrink before putting your terminals on. Otherwise, you're gonna have a hard time getting it on. And I'll be honest, a lot of these steps are probably moderately overkill. Again, for a quote-unquote burnout car. But so many burnout cars have failures because of electrical systems. Little catchphrase, the t-shirt, if you guys want it, bunker branding. Nothing is more permanent than temporary wiring that works. All right, got my ring terminal on. Now, when you're joining two wires together. This is a hot topic on the internet. Solder or crimp? I'll tell you what, I use both. It depends on what, where, and how quickly it needs to get done. Wire gauge plays a big part of it as well. So when you're doing 10 and 12 gauge, I've got non-insulated barrel crimps. I make a really nice firm connection. One of the big arguments for a crimp over solder is wire makes the wire brittle. And technically you're putting a hard spot in the wire with your crimp connector, but it's able to flex on each side and have relatively smooth movement. Granted, anytime you have a joint, you want to make it so it's not going to move. You try to limit your solders, your crimps from having the ability to flex and move. So on a thicker wire, I am a really big fan of just a crimp. I have crimps for small wires too. I will crimp and put insulation, the heat shrink over the top of a ton of wires. And then there are times that I will solder a wire as well. Thinner signal wires, things that will definitely lay flat like the cam sensor wire, and a solder can be a very thin repair where you gain some bulk when you're crimping. There's different style crimps, some V crimps that will lock in, that keep the wire a little bit thinner. In an absolute perfect world, from connector to connector, there are no crimps. You just run one whole wire. But in the reality of repairing and building things like this and not being able to buy the terminals for a connector, so you're having to reuse or find terminated ends. I know there's going to be a lot of comments saying one way is the absolute best. The problem is there's no universally best. Look at what you're doing, where the wire is going to be. If it's one wire in a long trunk that's going to lay perfectly flat, have zero movement, I'd be a fan of soldering it. If it's a bigger, thicker wire, crimp it. Anything in between, just again, look at the situation, and as much as possible, anytime you have a joint, limit that wire's ability to move in that joint. And you always want to use, in my opinion, a glue-lined heat shrink to prevent any chance of moisture and corrosion happening on that wire. Make sure your crimps are clean and then fully sealed afterwards so they're not going to corrode, because anywhere a wire is not insulated introduces a chance for corrosion. So how's that for a non-answer? I told you both are best. Do what you got tools to do, and if it doesn't work, well, you learned. Don't do it that way.
All right, let's take a break from the wiring, and I'm going to go ahead and update you on every car on the property, where it's at in progress, if it's even a project, or why it's here. First off, this is our friend Travis Bell's Toyota pickup truck, the Ferrari truck. This was built way back in the day, and it is going to be a probably 2-episode project where we are upgrading its little 22R to a 1UZ. Figured if it was going to look like a Ferrari, it should kind of have a good sound. Plus, as we have proven, that 1UZ has more horsepower than the similar era Ferrari V8s. So, you've seen it floating around in the background. That's what's happening with that. Now, outside, Honda Rousey. Now, if you're not familiar with this is our 1985 Honda Accord stretch limousine that my friend Henry and I took on the Dust Ball Rally on the Daredevils, where it failed miserably. Where we came up with a genius idea to take a Jetta diesel and suspension, put it in there, rebuild it, and fix all the rust, and it's just kind of been one of those projects that it's moved around. We cut a lot of metal out of it, so we know what we need to do structurally. Hopefully we'll have a suspension on it soon, and that is what that Honda is for. We bought it specifically to cut up as a donor to rebuild this thing. So, yes, you'll see some progress on Honda Rousey. We're going to kind of be rotating through a lot of the cars, making small steps while we wait for some parts to come in. And this is just a lot of metal work, and we've got the metal. Hiding behind that, my Lexus ISF, still stickered up from the livery, and tragically very broken. Former company that we don't regularly work with, I had a battery from them. You know, they live up to their name. They die very hard. It was having battery problems where it was shorted, causing all kinds of electrical problems. They wouldn't warranty it. Me being very stubborn, decided to drive the car with the bad battery in it. What it was doing was basically suddenly dropping voltage really low because it was losing several cells, and then the alternator would compensate. those cells would come back and it would overvoltage before things could fix itself. And the process of fixing that, I was having to go through, replace computers as fusible links to figure everything out. Very expensive, and I finally got most all of it situated down to just one more sensor, and in the process of doing the sensor, discovered it had the valley plate leak, and in tearing down for the valley plate leak, had a direct injector break. So just, it needs a whole lot of parts, and I've got a lot of cars, and I really want it back on the road because it's a ton of fun. Next up, a project car I thought would be a one and done, but you absolutely love, and I kind of enjoy it too. No Name Barry the Escalade from its previous owner. Picked this thing up in a panic, fixed one wire. You guys loved it. We went through and went to fix an exhaust leak. Had to do cylinder heads. I've got 2 more videos planned for it in the new year. One I've never done to a vehicle before in my life. I'm giving it a treat. Ordered some relatively expensive parts that will not make it go faster, but should make it look a whole lot cooler. Also, the lighting is just perfect right now. Now, rapid fire down the line. Project Lazarus. I need to get this poor thing back together so we can catch up and then outrun Brent from TFI Speed in the Freedom Civic. I have to put an engine together for it. This is one of those cars, multiple situations around it. Kind of discouraged working on it. When things are going wrong that aren't your fault, it's hard to stay motivated. Next to it is this beautiful Ford Econoline 200. Derek from Vice Grip Garage and I drug this thing from literal creek wash out of the trees. He had never started an episode with chainsaws, and we had to do that to get this thing out. We got it running, drove it over here, caught fire. Why have we not worked on it? 1, Derek is incredibly busy, and 2, the best analogy I can give you is all of our build plans, from as simple as keeping a 240. I've got 2 Ford 300s in there for it. He's got some cool parts that we could put into it, from just a retro camper van to building kind of like the modern equivalent of the Ford GT40 Supervan. Ford put basically that van on a GT40 chassis and called it the Supervan, and that's the Supervan. Just, we're 2 golden retrievers in a room, and you throw like 300 tennis balls at us, and we're all chasing those really good build ideas, and we can't pick one. So I like the idea of simple, but I also like the idea of putting that thing on an insane chassis and it being really fast, because I'm dumb. Next to it, Porsche 911. Turns out when you're doing a fix and flick series and you have a dedicated budget and you spend it all on a car that has very expensive parts, it takes a while to save back up. We are getting the cylinder heads done absolutely right on that thing. It's a little over $10,000 in parts to put this thing back perfect. I figured there's no reason to go part way on it. We're going to go all the way. Next to it is the Forever Supra. The reason we keep putting the builds off, they mean so much to us that we're not willing to take any compromise. And the problem with that, when you have to do it perfect, it's hard to get started because you know what you really want to put into it. Really do want to try to push to finally drive it. My goal was to drive it in 2023 and strike that one for failure. Next to that, electric S10. This was going to basically wait until we got a battery pack built out of the Tesla modules, which also had some very expensive components to make that work. But something that's coming up potentially very, very soon. This might be running thanks to our really good friends at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Pitched them a really crazy idea, and they loved it. So, very likely, as in, like, we're in the final couple stages of this, we'll have Robert Dunn from Aging Wheels coming down, and we are going to be driving an electric S10 before February, which is absolutely insane. So I'm excited to share that whole process with you. We'll jump over here, Project Roadblock. Got the Demon wheels on. Had an incredibly fun video planned on this. Our friends Power Brokers Palmer Dodge did some really cool stuff. We're going to get into all of those details later. And now we're fighting a computer problem, which is really kind of unfortunate because I like driving it. And man, does it look good on the Demon wheels. But you'll never put those on the street because they're slick in the back. So we got to get the Halibrands back on there. But looking forward to some more miles on that car with some just really cool stuff. You've never really seen it on the channel unless you've been here a really long time. My 71 International Harvester Scout 800 needs a clutch, needs fresh fuel, and I stole some suspension parts off of it, and it runs and drives. Once I fix those couple things, I like the truck. I don't use it much. I hate vehicles that unfortunately sit. I might be looking for a home for that. I don't know. Next to that, 1970 B-Body Mopar, because I just had to fall in love with the most expensive of all the Mopars. Got a big block inside to build this. We're going to do some sheet metal repair, some cool suspension mods, and really make the interior as modern as possible sometime this year. I'm not 100% where that's going to land in, but love this car. Want to do some really cool things, and I have a transmission idea that, from what I can tell, has never been done and should be really cool. Next to that, 66 New Yorker that I bought to get the drivetrain to go and make this drive, and you guys crucified me for this. So the plan for this, hopefully we can get it all finalized for the first quarter. I want to do it legally. I know some people do the giveaways, not 100% legally, but waiting to hear back from the proper law firms, and this will be one of your guys' problems. My plan with the New Yorker is make sure it's safe, park works all the time, it starts and stops. It's going to have other problems, but you guys told me it was too good of a car to cut up. So I'm going to make sure you can start it, I'm going to make sure you can stop it, and I'm going to make sure that when you put it in park, it doesn't roll away, and it could be one of your problems. And that's going to be done through a merch giveaway. So look for that coming. I've got some real fun, shirt ideas for that whole time too, but you guys said I couldn't cut it up. It's going to be your problem. Got some new wheels for it too. Johnny Rever, 71 International Harvester with Corvette front suspension under it that Randy and I built basically over a weekend, and I drove into a creek, put another engine in, someone tuned it, put too much timing in it, blew head gaskets. I'm putting the LS3 from Try Hard into this. So it's going to go really quick, and we're going to do something really cool where I'm going to take a road trip out to a torque converter company, and we are going to build a torque converter. It's part of the magical, mystical automatic transmission, and we'll be able to show you all the pieces of it, how it works, and teach a little bit, as well as get that thing back on the road, which I'm excited about. Next to it, Car Trek BMW. Last time out on the drift track, we finally fixed the power steering after a little bit of complications. Popped a coolant line at the end, fixed the coolant line, and in the process of fixing the coolant line, that was just an off-camera thing, created a vacuum leak. So I got to pull the intake manifold off, put new intake gaskets. Otherwise, that thing runs and works. Next to it, our Probe Project, our $2,500 car. I got a bunch of parts that came into it. Also, the guys, Scott from Exile Autoworks, sent out a set of bronze shifter bushings, and actually pricing them out, they're pretty much comparative to replacement factory shifter bushings. If you remember in one video, the shifter rod was completely shot. So yes, they are going to be included in the budget. I am not trying to cheat at all on this. That's going to hopefully just come up soon. I got to get the lift cleared. And then we're going to do basically what I hope is everything mechanical, make the windows work, so then we can set up for detailing and trying to paint. And if you're not familiar with the whole premise of this, we are trying to spend no more than $2,500 to make that thing look as new as possible and run as great as possible. Next up, my friend Trevor's awesome LX450. We've done a ton of this. We are in the middle of filming the video. We've got it mostly back together. I cannot find headlights or a grill for this thing. It's to the point we might be importing some from Tasmania. But this thing is awesome. We've got air lockers front and rear. We've got it converted to part-time four-wheel drive. So we're doing just a little bit of maintenance, getting this thing back together after a small run-in with a solid object. And that is coming. Again, that's a halfway shot thing. We're just waiting for a couple parts. Next to that, good old trusty Try Hard, unfortunately still Coyote powered. I've got to get the Coyote out. We're going to put the Hemi back in and then get it ready to make a quick trip to Texarkana and back. So really enjoy driving that car. I had it out on the road the other day for just a parts run, and someone decided to pull out in front of me, and I'm really glad we have those bare 14-inch brakes front and rear, because otherwise Try Hard would have been dead and buried under a garbage truck. I do not understand people who will sit and sit and sit and sit and sit for like 10 seconds and then at the last minute decide to pull out in front of the vehicle. Why do you people do that? Like, I don't get it. We got, 2022 GMC 3500. We did the tune on it, and it is doing brand new truck things. Not much to report there. All right, let's run back inside and get Earl hopefully fired up, and then do some massive burnouts, because I want to start the year off with a bang. All right, now we've got all of our wires run. We've got that really fancy Braille battery, just making sure it's fully charged in maintenance mode. So that's hooked up the expensive charger, and let's go through everything. So this is that nice MSD relay I really like. It's potted, fuses, relays built in. Normally they're set up if you're ground triggered, they have the bus bars in, but literally everything we needed to do is 12 volt triggered. So we built a little grounding loop. This is our power feed in. Ideally, or you may want to just run one hot all on its own, but the reason I did it this way is none of our current loads exceeds the capability of this wire to deliver basically current like that. So we're good to go there. We've got our control panel start. All of our switches, I need to label them: ignition fan, water pump, lights, and transmission fan. So all that's done. We've got our kill switch here. Now, the way I've got it set up is this lead runs to the alternator, which then also goes to the battery at all times. So when that's killed off, this still does have power. For the safety rules for, the burnout cars, not a problem. For anything else, you really can't do it that way. Also set up, because we got the racing transmission, is our trans brake button, which is also how we go into reverse. You have to manually shift it into reverse, push that button, and away you go. We are working on building those brake lines, but none of that is going to stop us from making Earl run. So I'm going to do just kind of a one more once over, then hopefully we'll pick up with Earl running. So this is the off-camera for real first start. I figured I'd bring you guys along. So, power on. Get just the water pump running. We won't start right away with the cooling fans. Got a weepy freeze plug. Derek and a couple other friends were like, just run it, see what happens. Okay. Don't need a trans fan. Don't need to turn on the lights. Okay. Ignition. Oh, I don't think it's going to try. I got a TPS auto set first. 4 more. Nice. Done. Okay. Power cycle the engine. Monitor, multi-gauge, wrong one, -3. I'm glad I had that GoPro running. Turns out Earl's so loud you can't hear a thing. But there's a problem. Oh, sometimes I wonder about cars. Are they worth it? Oh. Well, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I just need to pull the heads, redo all the threads with something other than Permatex, rerun valves. Okay, not a catastrophic amount. Something's a little unhappy, but that doesn't smell bad. There's 0 chunks. Let's get the oil filter off, and then we're gonna go cut that thing open. I just wanted Earl to be done. Check valve. Come on, let go of it. Let go of it. It's gonna just spray oil everywhere. I know it. Ow. Okay. Can I pinch in on the bottom here? There we go. Oh, I see. I see a lot of forbidden engine glitter. Ooh, look at how sparkly that is. That is definitely not the gold you want to find. Yep. Let me talk you through everything I found and give context to all of it, because this was the wrong bang. This was not how we were supposed to start the new year. It was supposed to be tires. But, yeah. Yeah, so we got valve covers off, and what you can't tell is well, no, you can tell because you see all the GoPro footage. There's no oil pan on it. And what you can also see, that coolant. Also, that coolant. If you don't know, on a lot of old motors, the cylinder head bolts go down into coolant passages. You need to apply thread sealant in order to keep the coolant down where it belongs. Turns out my thread sealant is not working. Name brand. New stuff. And I kind of stopped and questioned myself. Did I not do it? One benefit of being a YouTuber is I filmed the assembly process, and you can see the very sloppy application of thread sealer, which I then wiped down, on the sealing surfaces. But there's definitely thread sealant. But almost every cylinder head stud has coolant wicking its way up. There's a drop right there forming. When I say discouraged, because the motor started getting tight and the new starter is stripping teeth, even though it shimmed right. Just everything went catastrophically wrong. And it still may not be in the clear, but I found some positive things. Yes, there's a lot of material in the oil filter and the oil was shiny. I made one mental mistake, is all of the additives and break-in oils will have a lot of shiny. And when I actually cut the pleats apart, there wasn't much as far as just straight up bearing materials. So, should hopefully be okay there. We never had the slightest dip of oil pressure. Basically, oil pressure was 59 to 65 psi the entire time. Some people run higher oil pressure, but I remember when we were building this, Grimes and the guys there at the machine shop basically were like, this is a good oil pressure. We want this oil pump moving the right amount of volume without too much pressure. This is how to build it. And they've built a lot of these engines. So I trust them. So, still discouraged, I pulled the oil pan, which you guys saw, and then pulled some bearing caps. If we take a look at them, they actually look great. There's a little bit of material that went through, but all in all, there's nothing wrong with bearings. And none of the rod caps are scorched. Everything in the bottom end appears to be perfectly fine. And I was talking with Derek, again, Vice Cook Garage, and his opinion is kind of similar to mine. I'm going to get a new oil pan gasket. We'll clean up the bottom end. I'm going to pull each cylinder head stud, reseal it, put it back together, and hopefully we can stop the coolant leak without a complete engine teardown, and we'll try to fire it up again. So, we're not starting this episode off with the tire bang and pop that I really wanted. We did finally get to hear Earl run, and hats off again to the Holley Terminator system. This is a pretty extreme engine. I answered its questions, and it fired up as soon as we answered the TPS auto set. Now, you need to get the idle set down, and there's lots of little tweaks to go, but it was able to fire up, run really well, and just cross your fingers for me as I tear into this thing off camera that it comes back together, because I'm ready for Earl to work. This thing is just, feels like a money pit sometimes. It's not always, it's not how I want to start the year, but it still runs. Our wiring all works. We know that's all good, and we're hopefully not out a $15,000 engine, because I could have just ordered a turnkey thing with a warranty for that, but that's not what we do here. We make very questionable choices, and we build it ourselves. So, on that note, I'm Jared, reminding you guys to always make questionable choices, and comment below which is your favorite project. What is the one you're looking for, most this year? I'm looking forward to all of them. Let me know if you figure out cloning, because I definitely need more of me. All right, guys. We'll see you.